guys, good afternoon to you. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Double Shot of Steelers presented by FanDuel, and this is going to be an especially happy episode. And not just because it's hump day or any of that other intangible stuff. We're going to get legitimately happy. I have a dark feel about the reaction that's followed this game, this opening game, including my own. And what I did to try to address that, this was internal earlier today, was to think to myself, what would have happened? And I'm talking about with everybody who follows this franchise, if the passing game hadn't clicked the way that it did. Think about this. Like the run defense, yeah, that was going to pick an old scab. The inability to run, that also was going to pick a scab. And you were going to get angry about it, and you were going to get frustrated about it, and you were going to get pessimistic about the team's future. I am telling you right now, you could take all of that, everything I just mentioned, lump it up into a big ball of tape, and it wouldn't have equaled the reaction everyone would have had if the team couldn't pass the football. But the team did pass the football, and the team passed the football quite well. Notice I'm saying the team, not just Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers had a terrific day. I don't have enough superlatives for how he performed, his poise, the way he carried himself. I was describing that for you from Latrobe, from the preseason. This is a guy who went and checked every box as he came in, every single box, and then went out on the field against his former team in his old stadium and all that other stuff, and did that. But he did it with help. We can, and we have, and we will continue to complain about the offensive line and the running game. But the rest of the guys on this offense, DK Metcalf came through. Pat Freiermuth came through. A bigger block than any of his catches, by the way. Jonnu Smith came through. Jonnu going out of his way, by the way, to grab me in that locker room by the elbow. Make sure that you give credit to both Jalen and Pat for the blocks that they threw on my touchdown. Thought that was a pretty classy move on his part. First I remembered it too. And then Calvin Austin and Ben Skoranek. These guys made plays. They were significant plays. And the passing game, yes, Rodgers was limited to throwing short because you want to be able to throw deep. Mike Tomlin hinted at that being a point of frustration yesterday in his press conference. He said that we got to get Aaron the time to be able to throw deep, with Tomlin intimating that that's the reason that he didn't put any up, because he just didn't feel like he was going to get time from the line. But the passing game component of it, came through. That was the best part of this game. That was the most encouraging part of this game. And it's not something that any of us, myself included, should just be saying, yeah, but we knew that was coming. No, we didn't. No, we absolutely didn't. Not to be taken for granted. Guys, when we come back, we're going to be joined by Chris Halleck over on the South Side after he covered Steelers practice today.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Welcome back. Joined now, as promised, by Chris Halleck over on the South Side. What's going on, Chris?
Oh, Steelers practice today. It was good. It was fun. Good time.
You make it sound like you were a participant, like you got all the juices flowing.
I have walked more today than I have walked in pretty much since the combine. Parking situation over here was pretty bad today, so
no one wants to hear your reporter complaints.
No,
Nobody
they don't
wants to hear this.
But I do feel like I participated at least in one snap of practice today. I did not, though. Mike Tomlin would never allow me back on the south side again.
You know, the passing game is something that you and I appreciated in the moment from the press box in East Rutherford, New Jersey, as it was happening. And it really wasn't just Aaron, was it? This was a team effort, including, by the way, Arthur Smith. There was a lot to like about this.
Yeah, listen, people like to find their narratives to stick to and everything, and I'm sorry that the whole Arthur Smith is not a good offensive coordinator thing that started last year. You can get frustrated, and every offensive coordinator has bad games, but to think that this guy can't scheme guys open, I mean, part of that is execution. But listen, usually when players execute, that's usually due to the vision that's in the playbook, to the way things are written out. You see it. You see what the offensive coordinator wants to do. And when you have a quarterback who understands that vision and he can help execute it and he can lead it, and then the players do it, you can see exactly what the offensive coordinator wants to do. And Arthur Smith deserves his flowers for this win over the Jets. It might be really loud here in a second. There's a train coming.
Yeah, that's fine. When I think of what happened, though, I look at not just what Arthur did, not just what Aaron did. I thought the wide receivers ran sharp routes. I thought they ran dedicated routes. I thought they committed to routes when they knew, or at least had a pretty good idea, that they weren't going to get the football. I've referenced already on this show this week, and I referenced it from out in New Jersey, that in particular, Darnell Washington had to really sell his route. He probably knew he wasn't going to be getting a check down there. But on both of the touchdowns, Calvin Austin had told me out in New Jersey that those were the same play. Aaron Rodgers reiterated that it's the same play design. But you got to really sell it to get it to happen twice in the same game when the first one resulted in a really embarrassing touchdown. Full credit to everybody, and I probably should throw in the line, because some extra time was needed on those plays. It's not like the line was getting gashed on 100% of the snaps. But when I think of the things that I wanted to see go right for the Steelers this past Sunday, I'm not going to lie, man. As much as I know it would have meant more to the team to run and to be steadfast and dutiful and stout defensively and all that other stuff, what I wanted to see was the passing game, because it's been a while.
It has been a while, and the way I would describe it is that they have not had a quarterback play this level of quarterback in a long time. I would say pre-arm injury Ben, and I think what he's able to do before the snap is like that is valuable in and of itself before he even tries to make a pass. And for all the things that we want to pick on, whether it's on the offensive side with the line and Broderick Jones, or the defensive line, the run game, on the offensive side of the ball, you don't just fall into 34 points. You don't just happen to score 30. Oh, that was the luckiest 30. No, they earned those 34 points, and really only one of those came on what was necessarily gifted by either defense or special teams. That was obviously the Kenneth Gainwell forced fumble recovered by Skoranek. And then the offense made sure that they took advantage of it. 2 plays later is when Aaron Rodgers found Calvin Austin for the touchdown, and you made sure you got the full cash out on that, which is exactly what good offenses are supposed to do. When they're given the short fields, make the defense pay for it, get 7 points up on the board. That's exactly what they did.
And at the same time, when you see that Rodgers was 20 of 25 for 226 yards when he had a clean pocket, the mind also races. And I'm saying this in a positive way, because you want to know that if you achieve this simple thing, this blocking thing, that you have an offense that can generate even more than what we saw, because Rodgers will be able to throw downfield. Receivers will be able to make their way down further to the field as targets. That in and of itself is exciting, enticing. It should be something that motivates everybody toward excellence in the blocking scheme and the blocking execution. But for that to happen, and we can all pretend otherwise, it's going to come down to Broderick Jones. This is what Rodgers had to say today over on the South Side as it relates to Brod.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was moving that well, so I think I ran kind of into at least 1 or 2 sacks. So I got to do a better job of using my legs. You know, I might be old, but I still feel like I can move around pretty good, and I wasn't moving the way I usually like to move. So I thought the protection was good for the most of the game. There's a couple of fundamental things to clean up, but Pat's, take care of those guys, and I just got to get the ball out. No, just like to talk to him directly, and I really like Brod. I've got to know him during training camp, and I like what he's about. I like his attitude. He's a genuinely positive guy, and I got a lot of confidence in him watching my back.
I believe the last part. I don't know so much about the previous part. Chris, the football season is finally here. If we're talking about Broderick Jones's blocking and so forth, it's time to check out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook. If you think that Broderick Jones is going to make it through the coming week without giving up a sack or a hurry the way Halleck does over there, lock in your bets today. I actually don't know what the prop bets are that get offered. I suspect there aren't too many that involve left tackles. Think the Steelers are headed to the Super Bowl like Halleck does. You can lock in your bets today, whatever your game is. FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so that you can join in on all of the action. Man, did the quarterback take one for his left tackle there, huh?
Yeah, I mean that's what a leader is supposed to do. You're supposed to be the guy to not throw people. I think what people want, what fans want to hear is they want. I think I've even seen a couple comments. Did you see Aaron Rodgers ripping his offensive line during practice today? And I can definitively tell you, even without even having to watch a second of practice, that no, he didn't. That's just not the way things go in the NFL. Another peek behind the curtain, by the way, when film review happens, with whether it be full team or by position. And for those who have played football and have been in those rooms before, whether it be high school, college, whatever, or you watch it on movies and you think that coaches just like to rip their players when they screw up. That's not necessarily the case in the NFL. All these guys are professionals. And just imagine every time that you screwed up at your job that your boss would sit there and rip you to shreds every single time. You're working your job for a reason. You're a professional for a reason. And sometimes you just need to be told, hey, I don't even, or the boss doesn't need to always tell you when you screwed up because you're a pro. When you screwed up. But it's still good on Aaron Rodgers because he knows he's going to face questions about it. And it's still good on Aaron Rodgers to be the consummate professional and to have his left tackles back just the way that Broderick's supposed to have his.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Jay Smitty here, he says, thank you to Aaron. It was obvious he ran into at least one of the sacks. I guess you could make an argument that he ran into 2 of them. And then Jay Smith says, DK is not going to believe anything if it's not against Broderick Jones. Chris, help me out here. I spend as much time with Broderick as I do with anybody else in that room. I have nothing against this guy. In fact, I really like the way Rodgers summed up, I thought pretty accurately, who Brod is and how he got to know him in Latrobe. And he is someone who cares. His body language isn't going to get you all fired up at times. Okay, it's not going to look good. But a lot of that still has to do with him not doing certain things. We've heard stuff about, whether it's the use of his hands. Does he let guys come into him too far? All I'm saying here is nobody's got it. It's really hard to have something against Broderick. This is a pretty cool dude. So take out your, whatever this is, some kind of, social media type nonsense here. This is a player who's trying. This is a player who's committed. It's not happening. It's not happening. And Aaron can have his back. But at some point or other, Aaron's got to know that Broad has his back on the field.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to happen, and that's what we talked about yesterday. That's that line that Mike Tomlin and company have to be able to ride, because, you want to find out. You want to give him as much runway as possible so that when you make the decision on whether or not to pick up his fifth-year option next offseason, that you've given him the full ability to prove himself one way or the other. At that being said, you don't have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and Jalen Ramsey on your defense and DK Metcalf at wide receiver and a number of the other moves that have been made to sit here and go, well, we have a legitimate chance to win a Super Bowl, or at least compete for a Super Bowl here. But that's really hard to do if Aaron Rodgers is injured. And so you have to find a way to ride that line between, we got to give him as much time to prove himself, but at the same time, we have to make sure our 41-year-old quarterback stays healthy and isn't getting beaten up every week. And so that's going to be and hey, that's why Mike Tomlin's well compensated, right? He's got to make those tough decisions.
That's what he tells us.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the offense's next level, and I'm presuming a lot when I say this, but let's presume the pass protection is there. Let's presume the running game is at least enough to make the play action effective and everything else here. What's the deep ball look like in this offense, Chris?
Well, it could look a number of ways. I do think that there are going to be specific deep balls that, it's Rodgers steps back, 3 steps, back foot hits, and he's throwing it up to DK Metcalf for Calvin Austin. A lot of that also depends on what what the defense is showing. If the defense is single high and they know they've got goes on both sides of the offense, both sides of the formation, you got to pick and choose. Rodgers is probably going to predetermine where he's going to go. But there are a number of ways to go deep. You can attack the seam. You've got tight ends who can do that, and Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. You can also hit some posts to attack middle of the field if they want to go with 2 high safeties. Now, I do anticipate, listen, the Jets did a really good job of obviously stopping the run game. And they did that by playing a lot of man coverage and by loading the box. And so if defenses are going to continue to do that, then they are going to make themselves a little bit more vulnerable to throws to the second level and even deep down the field. And if the offensive line can provide a little bit more time, Aaron Rodgers will have more opportunities to hit those throws. So if the Jets set the precedent for how defenses are going to play the Steelers, well, then take advantage of it, because you've also seen what the offense can do, even when not everything's going right, including with your run game.
Yeah, and we've seen that Calvin Austin can be a real weapon in this offense. Yep. And that's something that I think a lot of people also needed to see. It's funny how ever since we've left New Jersey that nobody, ourselves included, have brought up the WR2 subject. We're all
you need to go
talking. What?
You need to go check my live cues on our app.
Did you get it?
Oh, yeah. I got a Tyreek Hill question that I haven't answered yet.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you're, you still have the cap space and you still have the options to have a trade deadline, and people get excited by player moves. They just do. The day that the Steelers got DK Metcalf, it took no more than a half hour for people to start coming up with other potential player moves, because it gets everybody's woo,
Yeah.
I'm not into that stuff, but I can see where people are. I totally understand it. With Cal, he went out and had himself a prove it kind of game. He was not available for a good chunk of training camp in the preseason. He was hurt. We didn't see a lot of him out there with Aaron Rodgers, and we've seen Cal, but we had not seen him with Rodgers a ton. And to have him go out there and make a couple of plays that he did, that's good stuff, man. That's stuff that everybody would have been angsting over right about now. You want, as a football team, to be able to do 2 things over the course of an NFL season. 1 is to get better. 2 is win while you're getting better. they took themselves a pretty nice step as an offense. I felt like. So all that everybody was left with, and not that these weren't real, was the run defense and Broderick Jones. Where do we end up going the last 48 hours? The run defense and Broderick Jones.
Yeah. The
Cal
one thing
can play. That's something I'd hope you can share with everybody, because you said this to me in the car on the drive home on a turnpike. Why would anybody, I'm kind of paraphrasing you here in the car, but you said, why would anybody be talking about Tyreek Hill right now if you just watched Cal do what he did on that field?
No, absolutely. Because and even Aaron Rodgers said today, we got to get Cal the ball more. After that performance, why would you think? Because now we have a game. Now, granted, it's one game, but we have a game in which we've seen Calvin Austin win a combat catch. That's not Arthur Smith scheming him open. That's him going down the field and making a combat catch. We also saw another play in which he probably should have drawn a flag on Brandon Stevens for pass interference. That would have given Chris Boswell, not saying that Chris Boswell couldn't make it from 60 because he did, but that would have given Chris Boswell an opportunity to possibly even kick it out of the stadium instead of just through the uprights, because it would have been a lot closer than 60 yards. But you also saw, the little things that he's done that Arthur Smith did, and even then you saw it married together. And for those who watched my chalk talk on the touchdown pass to him, the subtle difference that he made between the touchdown pass to Skoranek and the touchdown pass to him, which were the same exact play, was Calvin and the way he sold it. Because the first time he ran it, all he did was come in motion into the C gap, and he just took off. That's fine. You're fine. But then the second time, he goes through and he kind of does this settle thing for like a quarter of a second to get Brandon Stevens to think, oh, he's actually going to run block here, especially because he's coming through the C gap. And instead he does this, and then he takes off, and then Brandon Stevens falls down. Those little details. Those little details.
And I don't want to be somebody who brings up George Pickens every time a wide receiver does something good here. No, I'm actually, I already took a couple of shots at him on the app this week, and that's plenty. When you're doing the kind of stuff that the Steelers did systematically as a wide receiver room Sunday, and I'm including the tight ends. I shouldn't say wide receiver room. All of Rodgers' various targets and options. When you're doing that, everybody's doing their job. And when you go back and look at what George did in the Cowboys opener, and you see that he wasn't, exactly. Master of Music says Pickens is still being lazy in Arlington. This is not going to shock anybody. And this was his first impression game. This was his chance to show everybody, I'm a new guy. All I needed to do was to get out of Pittsburgh and I'm going to be fine. And he didn't do that. What you're looking at is what a team looks like when the wide receivers and the tight ends and everybody are just doing what they're supposed to do. If you want to know why everybody, players, coaches, everybody wanted George gone, you just saw a really, really, really good collective example of that in New Jersey. And I feel like that is a thing that really bodes well for the Steelers offense moving forward.
And so here's the thing here's another way to put it. Would you rather have George Pickens, who's going to be a head case, guaranteed to be a head case, but also guaranteed to provide 8 to 12 catches a season that are going to make you go,
yeah, right. And he will. And he will. Somebody's going to throw this back in our face next week because he's going to do something that's just beyond belief.
Insane for the Cowboys. Yeah, absolutely. And he will, because he's that talented, he's that good, and he's that special. Or would you rather have a lesser group, like in terms of like pure talent? And I'm not taking anything away from DK Metcalf, but would you rather take Pickens out of that, have DK Metcalf, and then have the guys like Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson and Ben Skoranek and Scotty Miller, but have all those guys be able to execute details at a high level so that, and then at that point, it's trusting Arthur Smith to scheme guys open. And if they execute the details as called, guys will be open, which if guys are open, Aaron Rodgers is going to find them.
Yes.
He just needs time to find them. He's proven he can do that for 20 years. Yeah. And even this week, he's proven that. So would you rather have, I guess, a lesser talent or a lesser group of like a talented group, but that can execute the details, or would you rather have the guy who's going to make you go, wow, every now and then, but also make you go bleep, 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 bleep every Sunday because he's doing something stupid on the sideline?
It has the makings of a very interesting offense. It's not gonna go very far without left tackle being addressed. It's not going to go very far without the running game being addressed. And part of addressing the running game, Chris, has to be flipping the order of the snaps and the participation. Wasn't necessarily the dumbest thing, but the most mysterious and surprising thing that happened on either side of the ball Sunday, yes, even more so than the Steelers defense coming out in that passive mode, was Kenny Gainwell getting 5 more snaps than Jaylen Warren. There's no facet of football at which Gainwell is better than Warren. There's none, not one. Even if it was just picking up blocks, if that's the only reason you had Jaylen out there is to help, hey, listen, Brod's having a rough day. Why don't you get out there and pick up some blitzes and so forth? You'd still rather have Jaylen out there than Kenny.
Yeah, sorry, another train coming by. This one's a little bit louder.
We're all right. We can hear you.
Yeah, okay, cool. So it is interesting, and I'm curious to see how they're going to distribute the reps. Now, even Mike Tomlin, he said it after the game, and he said it on Tuesday. He's like, I'm not about to dive into, in this setting, distribution of reps. He's not about that. That's one thing that kind of hurts him in terms of like having to explain himself. And again, I think when you try to factor in why, I do think part of it is they have specific packages, specific formations that they want to use Gainwell in as opposed to Jaylen Warren. But at the same time, there are also situations. They have Gainwell. He's a good third down back. He's proven to be that over the course of his career. So with how often the Steelers are going to be out of the shotgun because of Aaron Rodgers, with, them having a specific vision, you and I have been reporting on this since training camp, that they want to use Gainwell in a number of different ways. You're going to see a good dosage of Kenny Gainwell until proven otherwise, until Caleb Johnson proves himself and can get more snaps, or Jaylen Warren starts saying, hey, you know what? I don't need Gainwell to ever step on the field because I need the ball every time because he's averaging 6-7 yards, whatever it is, every time he touches the ball.
I'm going to take a couple more here today. Dr. Shadow says that Gainwell is the starter. If that's the case, man, they're going to have a tough time explaining a lot of different things, not least of which is that they just signed Jaylen to a fairly significant contract for a running back. That would be crazy beyond belief. And on top of that, Gainwell didn't produce anything other than the fumble strip, which really doesn't count toward the offense. Good for him. I'm not saying he had a bad football game. When you make a play like that, that can be the only play you make, and you had a good game.
Oh, yeah.
But offensively, nothing really happened with Kenny. And that to me is the bigger point here. Mr. CJ says, I think that Kenny was a decoy that happened to work. Here again, how would Jaylen not be a better decoy since he's a better player? That would be a little bit more intimidating to the offense if Jaylen's going out for a pass and drawing a defender with him. So let's get Jaylen back into this offense. Let's get some run going. And by the way, if you get some run going, Chris, you also get some confidence going for these guys. That's a big thing, especially with Broderick. We see his demeanor changes so much when he knows he's playing well versus when he knows he's hurting the team.
Yeah, no, you can tell, and I think that's where, because to your point of what you said, and I can attest to this too. He does care, and he cares so much, and when
he does.
It's almost to the point where he cares so much that it's actually detrimental to him whenever he's playing badly. Because then he starts getting in his own head, and and I'm not going to go and speak for, but I mean, Rodgers is the one having to tell him, and Broderick talked about it today. Rodgers is the one having to tell him, like, hey, next play, just focus on the next play. That's all you can do. And I tell my kids the same thing. Whenever they're going to school every day. I tell my kids, hey, we could think about just, what grade you're going to get at the end of the period, at the end of the grading period, or the end of the semester, end of the school year, or, behavior charts, anything like that. Just focus on today. Just win today. And that's what Aaron Rodgers does. Next snap. He's telling Broderick, just next snap. And that's the type of mentality that Broderick has to have. But at the same time, again, it's hard to battle that whenever you care that much that you want to be good and you're playing badly, you're letting your teammates down, you're getting your 41-year-old quarterback hit. He's taken that to heart, and he's got to find a way to be mentally tough on that too.
Yeah, it's Justin Watson says broad presses when he struggles early. That's a tough one because it snowballs over the course of the game. The game, as the athletes tend to say, speeds up on you. You don't feel like you have a chance to erase the mistakes you've already made. That's when someone like a Rodgers does come in and say, hey, next play, next play, next play. You can't beat yourself up over that sort of thing. We're going to take one more question here today from you guys. See if I thought I had a good one starred here somewhere. Oh, yeah, a really good one. Joel Anderson wants to know what that email address is again.
Great question. Great question.
You see how we do that stuff? By the way, got more than 50 of these yesterday. Well, that's
Man,
pretty much.
Guy.
I was going to say, yeah, but that's the best busy. Communicating with people who want to support you and what you're doing. There's not much better than that. Download the app. Do that. If you have an Apple device, go to the App Store, download it. It's free. If you have an Android device, go to Google Play, download it. The way to find it on those stores is to just type in DK Pittsburgh Sports and type it all out. You'll see we pop up right at the top. All right. You do that, get it into your phone, and you're going to open it up. You're going to see a bunch of ads. You're going to see that you can't comment. And that's because that takes a premium level. The idea here, what I want is to have people enjoy this thing as much as possible. So I'm giving a ridiculous discount if you email me directly at dk@dkpittsburghsports.com. It's right here. So you can see that everything has to get spelled out. dk@dkpittsburghsports.com. Be a little bit patient because this has been a really popular thing. More than 300 of these now over the last couple of weeks. And we do have one final question for the day, Chris. That's a real one. Comes from Michelle, who says, at what point do you feel that Broderick's a bust? I'm going to answer that in an ugly way. And that's when he allows your quarterback to get broken. And this is why people who say, why aren't you being patient with him? Why aren't you the way you were with this guy or that guy or whatever? No, this is a different position. This is a position that affects your whole football team directly and the well-being of your 4-time MVP and everything else that you just saw. This is not the same as let's be patient with Keanu.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers goes down with an injury, mainly because of a hit that he takes, from Broderick not protecting him, that would probably be the moment. You could really etch it in stone. For if I have to give another perspective, I would etch it in stone if and when the Steelers do not pick up his 5th-year option. That would be the other part, because if you have a first-round tackle that you traded up for and you don't even want to invest a 5th-year option in the guy, which they're not cheap. A 5th-year option in an offensive lineman is not cheap in the NFL nowadays. No. It's actually very, very expensive, but it's also not nearly as expensive as signing a Dan Moore type to an $80 million contract. So if you're not even willing to pick up the 5th-year option, you're definitely not willing to shell out the type of contract that a Dan Moore got. So that would be the other more solidified, quantifiable answer that's really not up for determination, or like left for like things lost in translation. No, nothing like that. If they don't pick up a fifth-year option, you can certify that with your rubber stamp first round bust. Like that would be the moment.
Guys, we will hook up again tomorrow. Tomorrow's Coordinator Thursday and so forth. We're looking forward to being with you here in this space again and getting ready for the home opener. Hope to see if you guys are coming down for the home opener that you make it here on Friday and Saturday. I'll be around for most of that time. Probably later in the afternoon would be better. And we're looking forward to seeing you at 224 Fifth Avenue downtown. I'm looking forward to getting your emails so that I can send you this ridiculous discount. And that's all we have for today. We'll see everybody tomorrow.